All right. Let's get this out of the way first. The thoughts, views, and opinions expressed on Tailboard Talks Firefighter podcast are solely those of the speakers, guests, and host, and do not in any way represent the thoughts or views or opinions of any other employer, partnership, or sponsor. The material and information in this podcast is for general information purposes only and should be used at the listener's discretion. Here comes the intro. Skip forward 30 seconds if you want to get right to the episode. This is the Tailboard Talk Podcast, the best health, wellness, and lifestyle resource for the fire service. We're using stories, lessons, and tips from the front lines to give a realistic view of what the job can do to us and how we can make it out alive. I'm Chris Morella, a firefighter since 03, medic since 05, full-time since 08, and promoted to lieutenant in 20. I'm also a personal trainer and strength coach, and I'm here to give you the best information and host the best discussions to make us capable and durable, both on the job and away from it. So grab a heater, steal some fancy creamer from first shift, and let's go chat.
The point of that is that she went through 4 or 5 things, which was like the way she justified his continuously changing behavior, and how, without context, when you looked at the person in isolation, you'd be like, oh, there's something terrible going on to that person. But in the context of living with that person, also the family and the job and the side job and other stuff going on, you're like, well, yeah, of course he's tired. Like, he's exhausted. He's not sleeping well at work, and then he's coming home and have to deal with 2 kids, and then he has to go do this and that. So in the context of the situation, it was impossible. And she listed off extremely specific warning signs that were noticed from the outside had she been on the outside. But on the inside, she was like, no, here's exactly what was going on in our life at the time.
Yes.
Him being cranky is not abnormal. Like, it's not
No.
for the situation we had, he should be cranky. And like, it was just,
Right.
It was time after time that, and you're like, gee, man, what chance do you stand? Like, what chance do you stand of picking that out or recognizing that truthfully? Like, how do you?
Right. You don't, though, because you're not given those tools in the beginning.
Yeah.
You know that it's going to change your lifestyle, your person, your family, but you don't understand because you're not told, and you guys aren't told and trained the actual emotional effect that it changes you. Mm-hmm. And so you don't. And it affects everybody differently, right? It's going to affect you. You have a baby, right?
Yeah, we have in a month here, we'll have a 2 and a 4-year-old. They're both a month apart.
Oh.
But yeah, they're
boys.
The 4-year-old is a boy and the 2-year-old's a girl. So it's a mess. It's a goddamn mess.
Yeah.
It's a fucking mess.
I have an 18-year-old that no longer cares for me.
Okay.
So do you want her?
No, that's how my 2-year-old is half the time. Like, she's so independent.
Yeah.
Like, but then
that's my daughter.
Our son, we called him the Sour Patch Kid in his even younger years because it was so black and white. It was so incredibly abrasive and disruptive, or like he was Velcro to your leg. It would not let you go. And it would happen just like the commercials. Like, he would break something and be like, I'm sorry, come here. Dude, You're a manipulator. You're just a jerk, man.
He's an engineer.
Oh my God.
That's who my oldest is, an engineer, and he was that way.
Really? There's hope for him then. There's hope because well, tell me this then. So right now he's in pre-K and he has like homework.
Yes.
Which is like trace these letters, and there will be a shouting match. So school's on Tuesday, Thursday. There's a shouting match on Wednesday of my wife going, Nathan, you have to do your homework. And he'll be a room away. He's just yelling, you can do it. You do it for me. I'm not doing it. You do it. And he's 4 and he's already like, I don't have to. You do it. I'm like, what?
He's upper management. He's the oldest child now.
He's delegating. Yeah. He's already delegating to middle management.
You got it for me.
He's delegating to a supervisor. That's great.
Yeah, that's hysterical.
So anyways, go ahead.
He's probably an engineer.
Oh, God.
When he writes his name on the wall and he blames the dog.
Great.
For being able to spell his name correctly. You're in trouble.
A lot of credit being given there. A lot of credit. So let's start. So let's pretend this is mine for the first 5 minutes. And then we'll pretend it's yours for the second 5 minutes, and we'll go like that.
That works.
Okay?
That
so
works.
Why don't you introduce yourself and kind of tell about how we came to talk today?
Absolutely.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Hi, I'm Christy Lister, and I'm with First Help. I volunteer for First Help, and it's an organization that helps families who have lost first responders to suicide. So we're educating our first responders with the resiliency courses that we have. So we go into the departments and we do a 4-hour course. Here in Illinois, here in Will County, I will say we've got it certified for the CE courses. So that's awesome. We're working on that all over. There's other states that we have it that way as well. But we also raise money to help the families because it's not a line of duty death. Maybe, hopefully, one day it will be. But families lose everything that minute that the chief, the captain, whoever comes to the door to inform them that they've lost their first responder to suicide. And, a lot of these guys have younger kids. So one spouse is staying home raising the kids because it's shift work, right? It's hard enough having two parents on shift work. So you try and keep somebody home. It makes it very difficult. And we have Zoom groups that we meet, our widows and parents and siblings. They all get on. We've got for the kids, we do a camp for the kids every year. And we do a family dinner every year. So as we were talking earlier, our family dinners are in Texas, which is where I probably should have said hi to him there, but that's okay. Next year, this year, whatever year it is.
Yeah, eventually.
I go in and I talk to police departments. I talk to their new hires here in Joliet. I talk to their new hires each time they get them. Started having a conversation because as we were talking earlier, having the tools of seeing the signs from the outside, we have those tools. And it's very important for me that they get them from the inside because you put a badge on every day. So whether your badge is a headset, a polo, your fire jacket, whatever, you're putting it on and that outside of it is taking a ding. And you think that inside, that's your family, your loved ones, you think you're protecting it. But in reality, over the years, you stop coming home emotionally and that backside's taking a ding. Your family doesn't have a clue what's happening. They just now know that their four walls are isolated and different than the four walls of your civilian neighbor. And so let's give everybody tools for both sides, for being at home and being at work, and make it a normal conversation. Make it easy to say, hey, I'm struggling today.
So obviously the dynamic, we talked about this a little before, and I think we'll definitely get back into it. The dynamic between cops and firefighters is way different, right?
Right.
Firefighters are superior, smarter, better looking. And all the...
You got a nice leather chair.
Several. Yeah, you can rotate throughout the day if you like a sundial.
Massaging chairs.
Not yet, but I mean, there's hope, right? So one of the things we kind of hit on before, you hit on it, you gave me this information, was the disparity in the timeline of when trouble starts to arise, right? And you tied it back really well. So why don't you run through that quick, because it made me think of a few things also, kind of as you were going through that. So run through that for me, please.
Oh, okay. So after a call, you guys have your tailboard talks.
Right.
You sit there, whether it's in the fire engine or whether you go and sit at the table, and you're talking. For police, often, especially in our area, it's not a 2-man squad. You get back in your squad by yourself and you're on to the next call. You kind of give yourself that you're able to process a mini debriefing as it be. It sits there, and then the next call piles up, and the next call piles up, and the next call piles up. And 24 to 48 hours later, there may be a critical incident debriefing, but there may not be.
Right.
But that's only to cover that first call that you were on,
right?
Not the last call you were on.
Yeah, and that so made me think of a few things. Is there? It's interesting on both sides of that too, because I've explained to people how, mainly to my wife and to people that aren't in the fire service at all, why I usually don't talk much about work when I'm not at work. And the first thing is because I'm there for 24 hours and I'm engaged pretty much for 24 hours. Like, we're a busy department. There's a lot of stuff going on. So when I'm there, I'm there. And when I leave there, I feel like I just did that for a whole day. Like, I don't want to do that more when I don't necessarily have to. I still like it. I still want to go back to it. I have a lot of fun doing it, but I did that. Like, it's like watching a very long movie and then starting it over again. You're like, well, I just saw this movie. Like, I did that. But then the additional stressor is we've had several significant calls with my crews, You go through the call, and then the call is a critical incident of any magnitude or nature. Then you have to write the report. So you're going to live that again in the most finite detail you can live it in, right? And then when you get back to the station, now there's a peer support team there. So now you're going to talk about it again. And every time you talk about it or run through this call, you're with the same group of people, but every time you're looking like, are they judging me this time? Like, did I do something wrong that they're picking up on this time? So by the time you leave shift, you may have run through that call formally 5 or 6 times, because then you're going to go tell your supervisor, your chief, like, here's what happened. You got to review it for tactics and sound of your actions. So you might run through it 5 or 6 times before you leave, and you're like, I just want to stop reliving this call already. Like, can I just not do that for half an hour?
Right.
And then if you're not relieved from duty, the next call comes in, and you're like, okay, I guess I'll go on this one now. And I'd say that was the times I've had the most trouble, was fairly not benign calls, but I would give them like a 6 or 7 on the magnitude of critical or like sad or distressing, right? But you do that and you're like, well, that call sucked. I'd rather have not have been a part of that one. And then you get another one 4 or 5 hours later. You're like, well, that sucked too. Both of them individually, not terrible, but together, you're like, now I feel kind of heavy. Then you don't sleep well the night. And then the most recent time, probably like 2 or 3 years ago, then we had another one at like 4 a.m, and I wasn't sleeping well from those first 2, just exhausted. And then another like 6, 7 out of 10 came in, and I was just wiped out. Like, I had nothing left. I remember I was actually going to buy a camera for my company, like a little point and shoot camera to do video on. And I remember driving there, and I remember thinking like, okay, this guy wants $200 for this camera. And I remember thinking vividly, like, if he told me this thing costs $600, I'd probably just give him $600 and take the camera. Like, I don't have any more fight left in me. I'm full of apathy. If my car breaks down now, I think I would just sit there on the side of the road until someone came along and fixed it. Like, I have nothing left to solve any more problems today. And that's when I reached out to EAP and did a whole episode about it.
I love that.
So I actually want to talk about that too, because when you reached out to me, I was like, oh, I should listen to some of her episodes. And I listened to the first half of the EAP one. Not because, and I want to listen to the last half of it, but it was on the ride to karate for Nathan. And then on the ride back, he was awake, so I couldn't listen to the rest of it. So it's still hanging out there, but I got a surprising amount of feedback on that episode. Some good, a lot very critical, because I had no idea the wide variety of EAPs that existed in the world. I mean, some of the EAPs are absolutely shocking in a bad way.
Some departments don't even know they have an EAP. I asked a department, I'm like, so you guys know what an EAP is, right? What is that? I'm like, oh my God, you guys are like 15, 20 years in and you don't know what your EAP is?
Yeah.
You're kidding me, right?
Yeah. And ours is great. Like, ours is something they sit you down and it's Support Link, I think is the name of the company. And they tell you, like, they use all like the goofy examples. Like, if you need a dog walker, if you need someone to bring your trash cans in from the curb, if you need to get your parents to doctor's appointments, like, it's also for that stuff. It's so comprehensive that it goes the full gamut of stuff.
That's amazing.
Other people are like, yeah, my EAP is run through my local resource hospital who communicates directly with my employer, so it's all public record. And this, I'm like, what are you talking about? That's not EAP.
No, that's not EAP. But you're calling your local.
Yeah, but that's their version of it, right? That's what's provided to them. And so when I was like telling him, like, yeah, I went to EAP, I dialed the hotline number, they got back to me in 10 minutes. We did a screen for any like immediate dangerous behavior, anything like that. Kind of went through how I set up my appointments and all that. And people called, they're like, yeah, I'm not calling my EAP because that's not what it is. So I'm not doing that. I was like, well, can I help you some other way? They're like, no, I'm fine. Like, this is bad. This is not a great thing. So I want to finish that episode. I don't mean to ramble on about this stuff. I want to finish that episode, but yeah, I can't remember what we were talking about.
I learned a lot from that conversation because I am not a fan of EAPs because they don't tell you about them. They don't walk you through. So like yours walking you through, that's huge.
Yeah.
Because now your wife is more likely to go call that EAP, where we just know here's an EAP if you need something.
Sure.
So when Ken died, my employer, I was still working through it because that's what I had to do. I don't have child support now. I have to, I don't know what's happening. I have to get these loans in regardless. So I just made that happen. But my manager sat there, threw an EAP down. Well, I guess here you could call them if you need anything.
Oh
I'm
my
like,
God.
we are fucking 2 weeks out. He's in the car. His ashes are in the car. I don't think I need the EAP anymore, but thank you. Did you want to go say hi?
Yeah, right. Oh, God.
I still work for him, different company. I work for him. So I just will throw out. He hates the stories.
I'm sure.
The dark humor.
Yeah.
And so when I want to irritate him, I throw it out there.
That's awesome. I mean, that's a great, and he can't ever be like, okay, that's enough. Like, oh no, it's never enough.
Oh no. Yeah. I got more for you.
Yeah. I mean, I remember hearing guys say like when the bubble burst in like 2008, people called EAP for financial planning and advice. Like
I never would have known.
Yeah. It's a pretty comprehensive, awesome thing. We even had he's higher up now, but at the time he was a captain, and once a year he would he would write an email, and then in an envelope he'd print out the email, put it in there, and then put the contact card for EAP in everybody's mailbox once a year, and just be like, hey, this is still here. And that's actually
huge.
the same card that I used when I called 7 years later when he gave it out. And I was like, oh, it's still my car. I wonder if he still uses this company. I didn't even know. I was like, I guess I'll call these people. And
we'll find out.
Yeah, talk about rolling the dice. I told you I don't pay attention good.
Yeah.
Sometimes I don't pay attention.
ADHD.
Oh my God, man.
Sometimes I wonder where I got or how I got that answer, but it's correct and I don't know how, but I'll take it.
I just wait for people to tell me I'm obviously wrong. And if not, I just assume it's close enough.
And I'm really, really good at BSing myself into thinking I know what I'm talking about.
For sure. I mean, look at this. Look what I'm doing here.
Look.
I got a podcast, man. Like,
wait till you see my editing.
Of course.
It's amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Now, it's a lot better now.
There's be rocket ships and stuff in here. Well, I can't remember what we were talking about. I think that falls back on the ADHD thing.
Well, we're talking about how we've contacted each other, first responder conference.
Right. Yeah. So we're both speaking there in South Bend.
Yes.
In a couple weeks, more or less.
May 15th and 16th.
6 weeks. I'm on the second day, I think, because I'm working on the 15th, so I'll be coming in the 16th morning and talking.
I'm running our vendor table on the 15th.
Okay.
And I'm talking on the 16th.
All right. Well, I hope I go before you, because I have a feeling you guys are going to be an awesome presentation. I don't want to follow it. Like
it's my presentation that I created. I don't know how awesome it is. I change it every time I'm up there.
Okay.
So
that just means you're comfortable with it and you're professional. Two things.
Yeah. That's the ticket.
So what are you going to tell me about your talk on the 15th, 16th then?
So mine is more, I call it both sides of the badge. I'm not changing that. It's a symbol. It's with beyond the first response, we had a discussion on the badge being first response, everybody. Mm-hmm. It's a symbol of your first responder. But I pull out and like what I learned, over these years, what I've learned and what tools we can give, resiliency tools we can give our families and our kids. Because the biggest mistake that Ken and I made is teaching our kids not to process anything. Teaching them that, hey, we're there for you. You need to know we're there for you. You need to know that we love you, and that's all you need to know.
Okay.
We thought we were protecting them.
Right.
Which in turn, we just weren't processing life, and now they weren't. And the fallout is shocking as I watch my daughter, Ken and I got divorced when she was 5. So she saw the unhealthy dad. She never remembered a healthy dad. Looking back, I say all this now, everything that happened. I also tell them, look, would we have still been married based on the choices? If those were there, then no. But would he still be alive? And would we have been able to co-parent? Yes, damn straight we would have been, because we would have had those tools. Our kids would have been able to process and know it wasn't them. A 5-year-old doesn't know. And what we're not telling them, we're protecting them, we're shut down. I spent every day with my kids. but I was shut down.
Yeah.
And reteaching that now, it's really difficult.
Oh, so is the work ongoing then? Is the work ongoing with them to repair that? And
always.
Okay.
Yeah.
What does that look like as they're 24, 21, and 18? What does that look like now? We're dealing with adults, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So my oldest saw something when he was 14 that no child should have seen, and he shut down.
Yeah.
And he hated me, and I didn't understand. Right? I was the safe spot. I was the I'm gonna take it out on you. I don't need to respect you, because he didn't. What he saw was not okay.
Yeah.
When after Ken had passed away, and I found out about it, and I talked to him, this look in his face, he's like. And he goes, I've done a lot of searching. Like, that was right away. Then last summer, he's like, Mom, I've done a lot of searching, soul searching. I'm so sorry. Like, but that's not your fault. You didn't know what you didn't know.
Yeah.
My middle didn't get, he was struggling with a relationship with his dad. He was about to turn 18. And he was going to make that decision. Do I let Dad know? I don't understand why you don't like me. I don't understand why we can't have a relationship. And that was taken away. So when I say this, it hurts me, but I understand that he was struggling and we missed it. He being Ken, but the kids were struggling. The worst thing is my daughter has chosen some unhealthy choices on how to numb the grief, but prior to even numbing the grief that she didn't know was grief, numb the feeling isolated, unaccepted in life, and alone. Because, her brothers are older. It's her. She had some hearing issues, a little speech issues when she was younger. That's hard on a kid anyway. And it's really hard on a girl. And it's hard on a girl to fit in when you don't understand what's going on inside. So it's been a struggle with her. And really, we've working on, if I want her to talk to me, I can't say I'm good. If I'm good, you better know that I'm lying to you right now. And she's learned, over the 4 years, and we had a falling out yesterday over this unhealthy coping. And I overreacted. I didn't overreact. I did highly react.
Okay.
But she feels I overreacted.
Right.
And but that's our first time in a while that's happened, which is good.
That was a more frequent thing?
Yeah, it was all the time.
Okay.
It was all the time. My fear of losing her, my fear of her not seeing her worth. Even though I would always tell them how proud I am, I would always tell them, hey, it's not you, it's the behavior. The behavior is not good.
That's hard.
But then it is.
That's so hard to understand. I still barely understand it because it doesn't make sense to me that that there's individual parts of you in there somewhere that get put to practice out here somewhere. And I don't understand it. It's so difficult to imagine me versus my mind versus my brain. I don't get it. And so that's a tough one.
And she's lived in, hypervigilance her entire life.
Yeah.
There's the divorce, the separation, the struggling in school, these people won't like me. These friends won't like me. I'm nothing. I'm lonely. You're living in that state of mind. We know what it feels like to live in that. I have PTSD from my early age. And I just see that in her, and then I get more upset. Like, you can't be doing this.
Yeah.
I'm not you. No, but you really are right now. Right. I promise you.
So is that?
But it's hard.
So with your experience, then, is that something that, man, you just gotta grit it now, but you gotta have hope that in the future it's gonna even out, as long as you can buffer from the immediate dangers now. That with some more time and maturity, it'll iron out a little bit.
I think so. I hope so.
You get that feeling,
I had that discussion with her. I do. Okay. And then we have what happened last night. And I'm like, at the end of the day, the only person that can help you is you. And that's the hardest thing for me to say because I'm fighting to help you be healthy, but I'm losing that battle because I'm not you.
So do you struggle then? I don't mean to.
Oh, I tell people, I truly will tell you everything because it's important to understand that this happens in more than this household.
It does. But I also don't want to overstep and like
Yeah.
pretend like I'm a smart person. Do you struggle? Because this is what I'm going to struggle with our kids. Do you struggle with providing? Do you struggle with providing the opportunity for them to succeed versus trying to force them to make the right choice and succeed? Like,
That's a good question.
so immediately, I don't. We're learning how to not do that with our kids. We're still obviously very new at it, but it's back. The easiest way I can think of is like fitness, right? I can
Right.
give you every opportunity and a program and support and address as many factors as I can to give you the opportunity to succeed, or I can drive to your house and pull you out of bed and tie your shoes for you and take you on a run, right? The more successful and long lasting one's going to be having you choose that path because of the environment that's set up for you and then making that your own environment. The immediate one is me grabbing you and going, but that's not going to go on for as soon as I stop going and grabbing you, that's over, right?
Right.
So with your history and knowing that you turned out amazing,
Thanks.
do you struggle then of like, I know what she needs to do. Let's just go do this thing instead of being like, I know she'll get into it in time. I'm just going to keep setting the table for her.
And yes, because that is I know what you're going through. I know what that feels like. Let me just pull you out of there now.
Yeah.
But she's not going to learn it if I just pull her out of there.
Yeah.
And that protection as a parent is the most difficult. Like it makes you melt. I walked into work. I went into my office today and I shut my door. I'm like, I just have to try and regain my composure right now, which I never before any of this happened. You would never see any emotion unless you were in my garage before I walked in the house.
Right. I got one
Then
of those.
you might.
Yeah.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, I'm like, it felt good to be able to be open about that, which is a step. But it breaks me because she doesn't get it. They don't understand the danger that they put themselves in.
Yeah.
Even though she comes from a first responder family. But that's because we've taught them by not telling them things that go on.
Right.
You know, the calls that you go on or the events that have surrounded you.
Yeah.
We're not telling them. So why would they feel it? They're not going to feel the pain from events like that. It's going to be like, it's just life.
Right. Yeah, there's no parallel drawn there, right?
No.
Yeah, it's like if you were a famous basketball player, but you never let your kid play basketball. They're not going to have any idea. But everybody would expect
And I've always
you to.
told them they can do what they want. I want them, as long as they give 100% at school, you don't need A's. As long as you're giving 100%, but I'm also going to know when you're not, and I'm going to call you out on it. And
man, you would have yelled
I've
at me
always,
a lot.
huh?
You would have yelled at me a lot. Dude.
Well, maybe that's why she and I fight.
Oh, man.
And I also told them that, you do something wrong, I'm not bailing you out of jail.
Yeah.
I'm not. And that conversation kind of happened last night. She goes, I can't believe that you said you were going to call the police on me. I said, what? What you were doing is illegal. I have a problem with that.
Yeah. Sounds like something I have a problem with.
It's better than what it was.
Well, I'm just thinking too, like, it'd be like, I mean, any situation you haven't been in before, how are you supposed to deal with that until it's there? You know, there's no,
right.
You can't practice for that. Like, you can't.
No, but you can't start having conversations like you have a bad call at work. You come home and like we talked about, you don't want to have to deal with work outside of work.
Yeah.
But it's still a part of you, right?
Right.
So you're still internally, subconsciously dealing with it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really important to express to people, just let your child know, hey, dad had a bad call, or dad had to deal with a bad call and there was someone that was your age and that made me really sad. All you need to say.
Yeah.
Because when you don't, you're looking at them and you're holding your emotion back, they're feeling that.
Oh yeah.
And they're saying, oh God, I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
I'm not good enough for him. He doesn't want to spend time with me. What did I do? And over years and years of that, where if we would have just said, hey, I had a bad day.
Yeah. I can tell you that there's been no greater mirror than our kids. Just saying ridiculous and horribly accurate shit to us.
Yes.
Katie was yelling at one of them yesterday. I shouldn't say yelling, but she had to get her voice up a little
Disciplining.
bit. Well, she had to get his attention, not
Yes.
like a and she got his attention as he was doing something stupid. Like as he was pouring something on the floor, she finally got his attention, and then he didn't know what to do, so he just kept pouring it on the floor. And she's like, "What are you doing? Like, why would you do that?" And he goes, "Mom, I just want you to be happy." Like, because all you heard was the elevated tone coming at him, you know?
Yeah.
And she's like, "I am happy, but I have to, what are you doing?" Like, it was such a funny thing. And I'm like, so obviously the way he interprets that is like shame, you know, like we're unhappy with him or unhappy in general. That's what we're putting off to him, even though it's like, hey, I need to get your attention, so you stop breaking that thing right now. And so
But
it's been
that's
such a
human
difficult
nature
thing.
too.
Oh yeah.
And maybe she was having a rough day.
We
so it came
constantly.
out. Yeah. Yes, you got 2 little kids.
Yeah.
You're going to have an 18-year-old come visit. She'll help you out.
Oh Jesus. We actually, so she had she woke up the other morning and she's like, my throat's killing. I got home from work and she's like, my throat was killing me all day yesterday. I feel like I'm swallowing glass. I'm like, I bet you have strep, because that's just everywhere in the schools now, right? So she's like, well, I'll make a doctor's appointment. I'm like, can you just go to the convenient care and get some antibiotics for this thing? 20 minutes later, she's like, yeah, I have strep. So she gets her antibiotics. Thankfully, both kids slept through the night. So she was on antibiotics and she slept for like 6 hours straight. And for some reason, our 4-year-old keeps coming in the room now just to check on us 2 or 3 times a night. No, not all.
He hears noise in the middle of the night and he's like, is everybody okay in there?
He comes in and he'll run past my side of the bed because he knows I'll grab him and like just put him back in bed. And he'll go to my wife and poke her and be like, do you want to cuddle me? And she's like, no. And that's all it takes. She walks him back to bed and tucks him in, and then he's there for another 2 or 3 hours.
Hysterical.
No. So she slept for like 7 hours straight, which is unheard of. And she's
Good
like,
for her.
yeah, I feel better than I have in like 3 months. And so that was like the good day. And then it was like back to the thing.
Back to the grind.
None of that makes any sense. But again, what are we talking about? So that's your presentation.
Yeah. I do throw in there. So the good news is my daughter's a senior.
Yeah.
And we haven't gone to jail yet. So I consider that a success.
You're in the majority. You're in the majority population still.
Hello.
Yeah, you're still not an outsider, no matter what you feel like. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you just give those 2 facts, you'd be like, what's so fucking special about you?
Right.
Yeah.
Get over yourself.
Yeah. What do you have a show for? What do you have a podcast for?
Yeah.
Been asked that question. I'm like, I don't know. I don't know why I have this.
I like to hear myself talk.
Yeah, I get free coffee money once in a while.
Right.
So let's pretend it's your show now.
Okay.
We'll split this up half and half.
Let's split it.
I think we got just enough teaser out of your side, and we're going to keep talking about it. We'll keep volleying back and forth, right?
Absolutely.
So now you get to really be dazzled when I have no good answers for any of your basic questions. This is going to shock
but
you.
I'm good at pulling questions or answers out.
Okay.
Let's see.
Okay.
The exciting thing is, I know that we both live here in beautiful Illinois.
Yeah.
And not too far.
It's over 60 degrees today.
I know. Oh, I got out of the car and walked into work. It was 70 degrees at 8:30 in the morning. I'm like, what?
It's awesome. We had to do a double take this morning. Nathan's like, I want to go outside and play in the puddles. We're like, no, it's too cold. My wife's like, it's 55. I'm like, get out there. Get your boots on and get outside.
Go get dirty.
Yeah, dude.
Eat that mud.
Yeah, go for it. Go for it.
Yeah. So, but you're on the fire side, as we know, but you have a very intriguing. So we're both going to be, I'm assuming when you're speaking on behalf of your fitness training, 4th Shift Fitness.
Right.
Am I right?
Yep.
How does that, I know it's for firefighters, but I also know that in your bio on your website, you also talk about being for first responders. that's a whole different shift. You're
is.
shifting from making sure you're exercising is shifting to different first responder mindset.
Mm-hmm.
How do you do that?
How do I open it up to the general
Yeah.
first responder population?
Yeah.
So here's the sneaky thing about firefighters. Okay, we look like superheroes. We act like it. We believe in our heart of hearts that we are superheroes. God bless us. But we're really just people who happen to take a test in an auditorium and do well enough and get called for a job. So time and time again, what falls back to is the fundamentals and that we're all human beings. And really, unless you believe that zip-up boots and blue cargo pants make you a superhero, we're just a person with a skill set, and that's the unfortunate part. Like, that's the fall from grace part of it. So as much as I would love to say, like, oh, I have the premier training method for firefighters in the country, which I believe I have a very effective training system for firefighters, the degree of separation between the needs of firefighters and the general population and all of the first responders is literally half a degree. And most of that half a degree is with very specific things like when you do the workouts, what intensity you do the workouts at, when you should pull back and rest. We have our own rules when it comes to that stuff. There's a couple different rules when it comes to our nutrition, kind of our hydration. Because of the shift work, our sleep schedule is a major factor in that we have to mitigate. So a couple other strings come with that. But in reality, you're just a bag of bones wearing a blue shirt. And so if you look at it in the global perspective, it's a large shift occupationally, but with the human body and the training philosophies and the methods, it's really not that different. So I have a group of friends in the tactical space and outside of it in just the strength world, and it's kind of a running joke of like, oh, this, because there's always people marketing towards fire and police, right? The tactical solutions, the hardcore stuff. It's all got the Punisher skull on it, right? With some form of red or blue inside the Punisher skull. And it's just the same stuff, or it's just goofy stuff, or it's gimmicky stuff. And we're like, you could just, one of my favorite quotes is from Dan John. The guy's insanely frustrating as a strength coach. But he basically says, like, I can have you go outside and throw dirt in the air for an hour a day and you're going to get in better shape. And that's the sad truth.
It's true.
Like, everything works. Everything works for 6 to 12 weeks, and anything more than you're doing is going to get results that you don't have already. So that's kind of the shift, right? The other is I don't want to limit, I don't want to exclude anybody that looks at my page and says, I really like what they're doing. I like the look of it. I like the feel of it, but I'm not a firefighter, so I guess I'm stuck. I want to take down that barrier of entry. So that's a simple reason for it, is that I don't want to not be able to help someone who is in need. But thankfully, that hasn't happened. I don't know if it's because of the specific verbiage on there or not, but I have a handful of training clients now that are all over the place, both in occupation and the country. So it's nice. There's been really no barrier to people reaching out and saying that they're interested in it.
Good. And that's huge because you offer online training.
Right.
Which, makes that, I'm sure that a lot of that came around after COVID or during COVID. People got comfortable doing that, and they're not always comfortable in a gym. Now I was doing really good. COVID came and I have not been back in the gym, but then I was walking like 30, 40 miles a week. And then I switched jobs and I got 20 pounds I have to lose.
And not, yeah. And then not.
And now.
So walking.
Walking
is nothing to shake a stick at. I mean, walking is one of the most underrated and most beneficial for the time investment exercise you can do, more so than running, more so than a lot of things. There's a distinct line in the benefits considering that versus like strength training or a lot of other more intensive stuff. But man,
I was getting definition like I was doing leg days by walking.
Yeah, I mean, it's gravity, man. Like, you're lifting 100% of your weight on each leg every step, So there's a scene in Pumping Iron, old bodybuilding movie, right, with Arnold Schwarzenegger, and he's talking about doing calf workouts. And he said to do an effective, I'm going to make up the numbers incorrectly, so there's going to be a handful of meatheads yelling at me for misquoting it, but he was putting like 700-800 pounds on the leg press machine to train his calves. And they're like, why would you put that much on there? He goes, well, I weigh 280 pounds. I needed at least double that to make any kind of effect towards my calves because they lift that on a regular basis. So I need to overload them with double or triple the weight.
True.
You're doing that. You're lifting yourself off the ground with every stride you do. So you're lifting your body weight essentially every single time with your leg.
That's true.
And then if you add a weight of any sort. So one of my favorite workouts at the fire station when I just feel like doing something is just holding a 20 or 25 pound dumbbell in one hand and setting the incline up a little bit and then just picking a speed that I want and going for a mile. And every minute or so you have to switch hands because your hand gets tired. But just the demand on your body to keep moving while you're stabilizing, holding this weight that's kind of working in a zigzag on your body, and it's going to be ever kind of changing, and it's huge. It's absolutely.
To remember that,
different
except that I don't have a treadmill here anymore.
Good
I was
news.
walking outside.
I was going to say,
get up.
We just talked about it. It's officially summer now, so
It is. I know. And officially, actually, since we're in April, thank you, News in the Morning, as I'm getting ready. April is walk month.
Oh, is it?
Advocating for walking and health benefits. So all over the country, there's signs that are that have a little QR code trying to get as many miles as you can in.
Okay.
And all these walks are being led by doctors to talk about the health benefits of lowering the blood pressure and, lowering your sugar and strengthening your heart. And that all started today. It was kicked off in New York.
Perfect timing.
Right?
Perfect timing. And it's one of those things where there's some people that'll kind of poo-poo it or be like, it's just walking. But in reality, and this is something that myself, Joe Galley, Annette Zapp, a lot of people that are well-respected in the health and fitness in the fire world, it doesn't matter. Like, there's a big push right now for zone 2 cardio. And zone 2 cardio is like 60 to 70% of your max heart rate, right? And so that you do 220 minus your age, that gives you your max heart rate. Then you take a percentage of that to get your heart rate zones. For some people, zone 2 cardio might be just walking around the block, and it gets your heart rate up around 100 to 110, stairs. Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
For some people, they can run a competitive marathon pace and still be barely in zone 2 because they're so well conditioned, right? But that doesn't matter. You just go. That's why the beauty of heart rate zone training is you go into that zone regardless of what it takes. So now you're not comparing yourself to someone else or like you're not saying I need to run 5 miles in 35 minutes. You don't have that barrier on you. You're saying I need to be in this heart rate zone for 35 minutes, and the pace and the speed are what it is to make that successful. So this is something that Joe Galley and I talk about is meeting people where they are. And if walking's where you are, then go walk, man. Like, it's only going to make you better. It's only going to make everything better.
And I had the luxury working from home for 4 years, well, longer than 4 years, but working from home for 4 years. And I could take my phone calls with me.
Right.
Put my earbuds in. I'm doing business while walking.
Yeah.
So it was fantastic. I miss lifting. I do have a set. So I'm not going to lie. I sold my set of weights right before COVID hit.
Oh, great time.
So I know. I'm like, I'm going to get a new ones. I'm just going to sell these. These are from the past and I need to get rid of them.
Yeah.
Well, then COVID hit.
Yeah.
No weights to be found. And the one set that I did find, they're in, what is it, the kilometers or kilogram?
Kilograms.
What is yeah. So I'm like putting it on there, not even realizing that. I'm lifting like, oh my God, I am so freaking out of shape. Holy God, help me.
Yeah, it's only 20 pounds. What's going on here? Oh, it's 45 pounds. So that, by coincidence, you're going to draw it out of me. Excellent job doing that. This is a lot what my talk is going to be about at the conference. So right now, if you follow my page or the Spring for Change page on Instagram, we're doing Spring for Change. And it's all about spring, making good habits. I should start over. It started a long time ago because we did a thing called Devote December. And Devote December was with me and Annette Zapp from Fire Rescue Wellness. And we presented together at the Illinois Firefighter Peer Support Symposium. And we said, I called her up in I would say mid-November and said, hey, I think, I just got a text from Katie. I told her I'm still on the call, and she said, okay, I told Nathan we could get ice cream if he did a good job at his store. I'm assuming that means he did. I don't know.
Yeah.
But,
Either that or she just gave in.
I know. That could be it too. So we did Devote December. And Devote December was we're going to use the number of firefighters who committed suicide throughout the year and then do something using that number to draw awareness to it and also take action. And the goal was to do something physical with that number. So let's say 100 in December. By December, I committed suicide. We would make it 100 of anything, like 100 squats or 100 push-ups or jumping jacks. Now, the eventual hope for that was that you participate in it, and then you say, like, okay, after doing 100 squats, my heart rate's up and I feel pretty good. And then if you get into a point later on in your career or life where you're like, I feel really whatever, down, bad, blah. I remember when I did that program.
Squat it out.
Maybe I'll just do some squats and it's a Band-Aid, right? But at least it gives you a little bit of something. And then maybe that triggers something else to go well or pick up another good habit. So we did Devote December. Went really well. But Annette and I both got itchy because it was an awareness campaign. And we felt like it's great that we're getting people aware of it, but we want to educate because we're both coaches. We both like educating. We both really think we're the smartest people in the room. So it's really awkward when we're together because we're both the smartest person in the room. Both have podcasts. It's a disaster.
So it'll be fun in South Bend is what you're saying.
So I don't think she'll be there, so I can talk her all I want, and she's not there to defend herself. So then we did Spring for Change because I went looking in, again, general population statistics because there's not a ton of first responder suicide statistics yet. And it said that, contrary to popular belief, we would have thought that suicide was highest in the winter months because of the weather, because of family get-togethers, because of all kinds of things. Statistically speaking, suicide rates are highest in the spring months. The first 3 months of the year it ramps up to a high peak, and then it kind of quells after that and comes to a dull roar through the rest of the year. Goes to a low point.
I did not know that.
Yeah, it goes to a low point now I haven't looked up in a few years, but this is what we based our Spring for Change off of. Goes to a low point around the holidays and then emerges back up in the spring months again. And so I was like, well, we kind of screwed up that one. So let's make another campaign. So we did Spring for Change. Spring for Change is in April, 4th month. And then we identified the 4 pillars
this month,
going on right now.
Yes.
Missing out on it if you're not doing it. Didn't do it.
I got 5 days to catch up.
Yeah. What we're doing. So here's how we're doing it. There's 4 pillars that we identified: sleep, nutrition, movement, and mindfulness. So this week is sleep week, and Annette is taking sleep and nutrition this year, and I'm doing movement and mindfulness and stress reduction, stuff like that. So this week is all sleep week, and she's given tips on the effect on sleep on mental health, how shift work screws that up, how you get basically sacrificed. All your benefits get sacrificed by a lack of sleep, and all week long it's just fact after fact and tip after tip of easily modifiable things you can do to improve your situation. Then next week will be nutrition. It's all about small changes. I mean, the smallest changes you can make are going to be the ones that we're going to try, right? So I don't know what her nutrition talk is, but I'm going to guess it's going to be like, try your best not to eat so much bad stuff after a certain time of day when you know you shouldn't. And that's the tip.
Even though you're on midnights.
Yeah. So that floats, right? That's the nice thing about it is like, keep a mental tally. If you know you've eaten a bunch and it's really not been too good, be a little bit better for the next 6 hours. That's the depth of the tips we're given. That's like,
it's simple.
It's simple, but it's realistic too, right?
Yeah.
One of the biggest frustrations that myself and Kurt, the guy I work with who does a lot of podcast episodes with me, is that we are such suckers for fads and for gimmicks and for programs. Keto, paleo, Whole30, 75 hard. I think that's it, right? 75 hard.
It is. I have the book that I haven't read yet.
So it sounds great, right? But it's so extreme. All of it's so extreme that it's just like, it's like that whole equal opposite reaction thing. It's going to fall down so hard. When in reality, you just got to pay attention a little bit, or that's the best thing you can do.
6 to 12 months to make the change permanent.
Oh yeah. And then that's the dangerous part. Cause then you're like, oh, I got a hold of this thing. I can party once in a while.
Right.
Then you have to keep chasing it. Right.
And only 30 days to cancel it out.
Oh, no doubt. I mean, for a normal person. For us ADHD heads, it's like, what was that thing I was doing for the past 2 years of my life? I can't remember now.
Was I doing that for 4 years? Where did that go?
Yeah, I feel like I did something that was good, but I'll figure it out. So sleep, nutrition, movement. I'll be doing movement and stress reduction, and it's the same stuff. It's like walking, right? Hey, if you think you're at a level where you can walk around the block 5 times, carry something that weighs 5 pounds and walk around the block 5 times. That's it. That's the extent of it. We'll go through all the prerequisite stuff, like here's the benefits of it, here's why you should do it, blah, blah, blah. But both Annette and I openly say, like, we're not selling anything anymore. Like, we're not trying to convince people anything. Well, we're definitely both selling stuff. We don't try to convince people anymore because that's a loser, right? But I'll give you as much information as I can. If you want to pick up some of it and it works for you, then that's a huge win. And that'll happen.
And guess what?
Often.
If it's not going to work for you, it might work for the person that's sitting there going along with you.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the generic stuff for everybody that if you take up a piece of it, then we'll all be better off, right? Now, the last part is the mindfulness and stress reduction one. That's a tough one because not a professional when it comes to that stuff. But that stuff is probably the most intimidating. It's probably the farthest out of our comfort zone. And there's no better person to dumb it down than yours truly. So it's like, hey, here's this. I'm gonna endorse a lot of things that are ridiculously simple because those are the things I can remember to do the most. There's a wheel that we got from the AFFI thing, and it's a rainbow wheel with all the different.
It's an emotion wheel.
It's exactly what it is.
I know.
That'll be on there. A little gratitude journal that I got for $3 on Amazon, and it spells it out. And it's this big, so there's not room to write a ton of stuff in it. And that's the beauty of it. You get one sentence, that's it, and it has what are you thankful for, and it gives you 6 options, and then why, and it gives you 2 lines, and that's it. And just little stuff like that. We're going to tie back all that stuff to mental health, and that'll be kind of so that's this month, and that's also what I'm going to recap then at the conference we're speaking at. And
May is Mental Health Awareness Month.
Right, so it bleeds right into that.
Perfectly.
So yeah, we got this whole thing going.
Good. I'm going to have to check it out. I did not check that out, but I definitely will.
Yeah, and it's just simple, man. Like there's so much goofy complex stuff going on that's just so simple, and it's some people don't like it. Some people need a gimmick to get involved with it, you know. So we tell them,
the competitive thing you have to be is competitive with yourself and prove to yourself that you can go past that simplified action.
Well, and so that's the beauty of it, is you can gamify it as quickly as you want to.
Yeah.
Because if someone comes to me and says like, well, walking's not hard, I'll say, well, then time yourself with a 25-pound weight and report that back, and I'll put it up there and I'll show you off. But then you better do that every week and beat it. Like gamify it then. Go for it. But guess what?
I would sit there and have a routine.
Yeah.
I had my routine, and I'd be like, okay, I'm cutting 5 minutes off.
Yeah.
And then when my boyfriend walks with me and then we're 3 minutes slower walking, I secretly like,
slug. So here's a great example is I live just outside of town, so I can ride my bike to almost any station. Out of 7 stations, there's 2 that are just too sketchy to get to. The station I worked at was 7 miles away, so it was about half an hour in the morning, and I would get there, and the same guy would kind of give me shit every morning for riding my bike, you know. And so I said, and he lives right by me. He lives like a block south of me. So I told him, like, you could ride your bike too, but it would take you 2 hours to get here. So unfortunately, we'll never see your bike. And so I kept riding in. He kept giving me the business. I kept giving it back to him. 2 months later, he's like, hey, I found my bike the other day. I'm like, why? What's the point? You're just going to sell it? Like, we just kept going back and forth. I'm like, scrapping the thing, need some extra cash. Got to the point where a month later, he was riding his bike in because I bet him a day's worth of meals. He couldn't get to work in under 45 minutes. So he was up at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Look at you.
So that led off. It was a 2-month process, right? But you goat this guy into it. I bought him meals for a couple shifts. He bought me ice cream for a couple shifts. Like, we just kept going back and forth.
Because he's trying to slow you down.
Right. Right. But over the course of 2 months, you know, I don't want to say it worked, but then I would open like, yeah, I tricked you into being healthy for a summer. He's like, you didn't trick nothing. And we go back and forth. But it's simple, right?
I don't think they have the MS-150 anymore.
What?
But it was for MS. It was a fundraiser for MS,
okay.
150-mile bike ride.
Yeah.
And get into that.
Oh yeah, right. No,
I swore all the way through it. I'm like, I'm never doing this again.
that's a long bike ride.
It sucked.
That's a long bike ride. I'm looking at doing like a 50-mile one in Nebraska in August, September, and I'm like nervous about that one.
A lot of hills.
A lot of hills. It's a gravel ride, so it's going to be mostly like gravel and limestone and some roads. So I'm excited.
Well, that stuff is fun.
It's supposed to be, it's supposed to be pretty awesome. So I'm getting excited for that one. But that's the kind of thing. Like, it's simple. I'm not afraid to use dirty tactics once in a while to get people to have a good time and to ride his bike. So he rode his bike in 5 or 6 times over the course of the summer, you know. But now that same guy, he'll tell me, like, yeah, as soon as the weather breaks 75, I'm riding in again. He's like, I'm a fair weather rider. But he's like, I liked it. He's like, I had a good time. I liked the way it made me feel. He's like, I started kind of working out since then. I started eating a little bit better because I definitely don't want it to hurt so bad in these hills coming out of the river valley that we have. You have to cross the river, the Fox River, to get there. So it's like 7% at some points to get out of the valley. And
yeah, that sucks.
And then every once in a while,
that's where I would get off my bike and just put it on my shoulder.
Well, and he's been on the job for 24 years, 25 years. So he knows the city inside and out. And so I'd be like, hey, I'll ride home with you. We're going to go down Jackson today instead of Crystal. And he's like, why are we doing that? I'm like, it's just quicker. And it's a massive hill.
When I lived in Aurora and I worked in Burr Ridge, I would ride my bike.
Yeah.
Except Route 53 in Hobson, there's a hill. I'm like, I'm not even going to do that. I'm just going to get off of it because no.
You got to know your limitations. Yeah. You're still.
I'll ride down it on the way home, but I'm
danger.
not going to ride up it. It's too early in the morning.
Yeah. There's definitely that part of it. There's nothing wrong with being safe. So yeah, that's my talk.
I'm excited to hear that and the importance of knowing and teaching family too, because isn't it that your family is a first responder? They're serving invisibly with you, next to you, which you'll hear me talk about that in more detail and the realization of it, that they probably don't realize it right now. But once you're on the outside looking in, it's incredible at how much. So it's giving them the tools, and those are even tools that you can start giving your kids. And that helps them by giving them those healthy coping mechanisms. They're going to be able to turn to doing the squats, going for that bike ride, instead of which vape pen am I going to grab?
Yeah.
You know, what Snapchat am I going to hook up with? Those things are unfortunately very real, unhealthy coping mechanisms that can be changed.
Yeah.
And normalized to go for that walk instead of that vape pen, instead of meeting up with people.
I mean, it's scary to think about, you know, it's scary to think about the amount of work we have to do with our kids.
But it starts at home with conversations that we as first responder families, I mean, you guys are a little bit younger than me, but we as first responder families didn't have the tools to do and weren't told. I thought I had all the right tools. Yeah. I'm there. I'm a good listener. I'm 100% loyal and supportive. But at the end of the day, I was not prepared for a quiet, cold house of there's this body here and that's what it is. And I don't know what to do with this except become angry and hurt and misunderstood and not able to function as a wife, as a parent, as a employee. So we can make difference little bits at a time. Your kids are getting those little bits now.
Well, I appreciate the encouragement, and I'll just put that on a loop because my God, are they challenges, man? And I don't know, but I'm also glad I mean, it sounds like the work you're doing now with your kids. I mean, it just sounds like so much, and that must mean that it's the right thing to be doing, and that it's going to be hugely effective. Because if it didn't sound like so much, it probably wouldn't be the right thing, right?
It's hard. It sucks. It sucks because we failed them by not recognizing that we weren't doing what we needed to. And that being said, we don't know what we don't know at the time.
Right.
But given the fact that I do know now, it's hard work to do now, but I've seen the changes. So there's hope that it will overcome all of it together.
Do you ever look back then? So do you ever try to draw positives out of it? Like, do you ever say, and I don't, this is another one, I don't mean to speak out of school or anything like that. Do you ever say like, well, at least they weren't 5 years old when this happened? Or
yeah.
So does that I don't know, does that happen? Do you draw positives because of it? That like, okay, at least we can have adult conversations with them now to mitigate what's going on, or at least identify it instead of figuring that out as we go. I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. Because at the end of the day, I would, if you guys want to know what happened between Dad and I, you need to know it wasn't you. When you're an adult, if you have questions, that's when I will answer them.
Yeah.
Obviously that chance never happened. But now I'm like, I'm going to give you, if you ask me a question, I'm going to give you the honest answer. Now there's some things that I'm just not going to honestly answer.
But you still answer honestly.
Yes. Yeah. I'm going to say, I'm not going to speak on your dad's behalf.
Right.
On some of those things.
Yeah.
But you ask me things, I'll say yes or no, but I won't go into details on things that he can't necessarily explain choices that were made. Right. Yeah. That's not fair.
Right.
And they can't. And again, at the end of the day, looking back, it makes sense now because he was struggling.
Yeah.
Because that's not the person who I met when he was a year on. That's not the person who I chose to marry and have 3 children with. That's the circumstance of lack of tools to keep him as close to that person. Because we all change every day. Every day we walk out the door, we're changing. Yeah. Each and every one of us. Doesn't matter what you do. Doesn't matter how old you are. You come back a different person. But it's how you react to what has happened to you when you're out there that day. And that's a huge positive. It's a hard pill to swallow that we didn't know that before, but now it's time to have the conversation to make it normal.
Yeah. Well, it sounds, and you're the person to do it. You're the person to do it. I mean, I guarantee you didn't see yourself as that person, but I feel like just from the hour and 20 minutes we've been talking, it was in you the whole time. Somehow to be that person. You've fallen into it with the organization, and now speaking to families in general while still doing the work on your own home front. I certainly know people that wouldn't be in the cards, right? If that's just not their path, their skill set.
And that's okay because they have a different skill set,
right?
That whatever that is, if they're utilizing it and they recognize it in themselves, they're making a difference in somebody's life.
Yeah. Well, this will be fun. This will be fun in May. Oh, well,
we'll have to do a post podcast after.
We will. Yeah, we absolutely will. I think so. What's not going to be in this episode is everything we talked about for the first 20 minutes before we hit record.
Because I didn't hit record.
Neither of us did. In the middle of it, I was like, crap.
I know. You know how many times I do that? I'm like, that was such a great conversation. What was I thinking?
We should start a podcast so we capture the kind of things.
Yeah.
But there's a lot in here.
There is.
I've had one other person reach out from the conference so far, so I'll have them on. But I'm pumped for this. I'm really happy they reached out, and I'll be excited to see you there.
Yeah, I'm glad that you put it out there because I never even would have thought to say, "Hey, guys,
all right, so
come on the podcast."
What's wrong with us? Like,
I don't know.
This has happened so many times in the past, year at least, where I'll be doing something and be like, "Oh yeah, that's cool," blah blah blah, this and that, and all of a sudden I'm like, "Dude, I have a fucking business and a podcast I can incorporate into this so easily." And like, it would help everybody. And I'm just like, oh yeah, cool story. Like, it's just so frustrating. Like I'm sitting here talking to my wife. I'm like, yeah, I got to find more guests for this podcast. And I'm like, it's just tough, like scheduling with people and all that. And she's like, aren't you speaking with like 10 other people in 2 months? I'm like, yeah. She's
Like your wife.
do you think any of them? like, yeah, probably all of them. Like, obviously.
Shut up with a good idea.
Oh my God, dude.
But now we'll both bring ours and we can double it.
That's beautiful. Yep. We can, yeah.
Right?
I don't know what kind of cable it's going to take to link them both together, but we'll make it happen.
Well, I've got a lot of cables, so I'm bringing them all.
Bring
I'm
them all.
driving, so there's plenty of room for cables.
I'm taking, with the fire department, I'm going to charter a helicopter because they give us the hero treatment.
Nice.
Maybe